Hi, I'm Silverette, and we're playing Tycoon 3 today. You know what the deal is with this. My neighbors are currently doing some shenanigans in their garden, and it sounds like they're trying to land an airplane over there, but hopefully that's not going to be too much of an issue. In any case, I've got Oliver Heldens blasting through my ears, which I can't add because YouTube copyright problems. That's a rant for another time. Actually, that's a rant for no other time, fuck that. I should talk about Tycoon 3. What am I even doing? This building over here is going to be somewhat of a... it's really hard to explain, but I guess I can actually kind of get at what I want to do at that spot, even though I suddenly start building another building because I was like, I'll do that other thing later on. Because at the end of the main street, I was thinking about whatever I could do over there, and I feel like the best thing to do is to have some symmetrical, but then again, not entirely symmetrical type of building. So you leave the main street, and then you get one big square. That's essentially the idea of the park layout so far. That you leave the main street and then have a square with something in the middle of it. I'm not entirely sure what I want to have there. There have been some people who say that I need a fountain somewhere, but yesterday in a stream somebody said, what are those things called again? Chair swings. And yeah, honestly, a chair swing would look pretty cool in there as well. But the carousel is also the kind of standard thing, and yeah, that's basically the kind of problem that I have right now, though it's not really a problem. It's just that I need to think about whatever I want to have in the middle of the park right there. But I just want to have some very similar facades, at least in terms of style, around that. So you get that very Paris-ish thing, where many of the buildings at some places, especially around those monuments, actually aren't the same, but they have the same style of height and shape and things like that, which I think is because of... I think there's a height limit in the center of Paris, which is actually pretty cool. You should have that in cities. That's one thing to note about main streets. Main streets are the best when all the buildings are around the same height. Not exactly, but at least they have the same amount of floors, and no real building sticks out unless it's a tower. And that is a general kind of rule which you can apply to a main street. It mainly exists in cities because they have the aforementioned height limits very often in the center of the city, so it doesn't get ruined by big skyscrapers and stuff like that. But you'll always have the city halls and the churches that everyone wants to be bigger. And that is also something that you can always keep in mind while building main streets. This building over here is just a bit of a simple counterpart of the other building on the other side. Also, this is the first building of the new side, which, this is a bit of a funny story. Well, basically, my streams right now are way too much ahead of my Let's Plays. I think it's about 3 episodes or something, and as I am speaking, the main street is actually almost finished, and you'll see that very soon. I'll try uploading a video every day, and if not, every 2 days, so we'll catch up pretty soon. But basically, there's a bit of a dilemma of which side of the main street is the better side in terms of buildings and stuff, and the left side is actually winning. I mean, the right side is winning, so the old side is winning. So that means that the new parts aren't going to be quite as great in most people's opinions so far, but I guess you'll see at some point. Actually, no, I think it was the other way around. The left side one, oh my god, I can't even remember anymore. It was a straw poll, but I don't have the time to go there. In any case, whatever, that's a cool thing to say at that point, to just ask people what's the better side, even though it doesn't really matter too much. It's just something that I'm kind of interested in, because they will be slightly different. There will be some slight differences in the styles of both sides. The left side, coming from the entrance that is going to have a couple more main street-ish buildings in the sense that they are less general European, like the Alpine building is, for example. That's next to this building that I'm building right now. And this is going to be one of those 2 symmetrical buildings. And they're going to be symmetrical in the sense that they both have the same structure, with 2 wide wings on both sides and a diagonal tower in the middle. But I do want them to be slightly different in terms of custom scenery use and colors as well. So it gets a symmetrical picture across, but it's not exactly the same. I think that's the best idea to dive into this. And this building overall is just a bit of a rip-off of the other buildings that I already have. There's just this thing with that first building, which was just completely an experiment with the style, and mostly the colors, because that first building started with those light brown mixed with very light blue, and that very dark red for the roof, in which the light blue would be the walls, and the light brown would be the accents, and the roof had an entirely different color, but it actually worked a lot better than I expected. And I guess I can chalk the fact that I didn't expect too much out of the building at first, but now it's one of my favorites of the main street, is due to the fact that one of the main rules that people want to abide to when building main streets, but when building buildings in general, is, but yeah, this especially counts for main streets because you have many colors, but I need to get to that already. Okay, the rule basically is that you should keep your color use to either the accents of the building or the walls, and by accents we mean anything from balconies to cornerstones to windows and random decorations. So if you have white walls, you'd see, for example, brown accents or red accents, but if you have a building with a red wall, most likely that's going to be a brick texture kind of thing, then you'd probably have white cornerstones and white windows, and this is something you do see very often, so it's a bit of a rule that people always try to follow. And I guess it's a very good idea because it's a handy way to not have to come up with ingenious color schemes, but also not have the danger of building a building and then realizing that the color scheme just doesn't work out because the colors don't work out together. If you keep all the accents to one thing and then all the walls to one thing, and if either one of those is white, or I guess if you have a very dark theme it could also be black because black goes with anything, but then again, black is a color you'd kind of want to avoid in a theme park. You do want to keep it kind of happy and uplifting, unless you're in the spooky part at least. But that's mainly that one basic rule, and I wouldn't call it confused, but I was pretty surprised and actually happy to see that the buildings which didn't follow that rule at all and just were a clusterfuck of colors worked out a lot better than I expected. This is not to say that that rule is stupid. It is definitely something which you should follow in most cases, but it goes to show you that some color schemes can work out a lot better than you expect beforehand. So you can never really write off a color scheme as terrible before you can actually see what it actually looks like, I guess. Now this, by the way, is just some backstage thing, and this is something that I probably should talk about because I haven't really done this before too much. The only thing where I did do it is in Verona Valley, and I think in Verona Valley I did this backstage. And by that I mean these things are backstages, of course, but I mean that I didn't do them in the time lapses themselves, because what I want to do in this park, and what I haven't really done in either Rose Gardens or the other park, is to not only get a realistic layout done in terms of the theme park itself, and where the guests can go, but also slightly focus on the background areas. And by slightly focusing, I mean that I'll be focusing on getting them to look nice and realistic, but not putting too much time in it, because it really seems like a wasted effort to start working on backstage areas for many hours. But then again, I would like them to be realistic, to actually look at the park from an aerial perspective and see how it works and things like that, because it just seems like something that I've missed out on before, and I really want this park to be as realistic as I can. This is going to be not hyper realistic because it's still in Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 and it's still a bit of a fantasy park. But then again, I do want it to seem like it actually functions. Also, unlike my other parks, I also want this to be somewhat functioning when it comes to the peeps. So I do want the peeps to be able to enter the rides. And I am planning on actually getting some coaster gates for once, because when it comes to realism on the very small coaster details like lockers and fast pass lanes and stuff like that, I've never really been up to date because I've never been much of a theme park person, to be very honest. I'm kind of in this community because I like the game a lot and I just like being creative in general, but I'm sorry, I'm just pretty dumb when it comes to theme park stuff, and most of what I do know I've been taught by other people, so yeah, that's just about me for a second. So I figured that I should actually zoom in on fastpass use and just general theme park details that I normally always miss out on, just for that extra layer of detail, or at least realism in the park. And that's just something that I want to strive as well for. Oh, this building is going to be, this building was going to be a bit of a Dutch building, because I figured, no, I could actually add some Dutch-ish influences in this park. But as you may know, there aren't really any Dutch custom scenery sets, before you say, so what are you saying? There's CTR Sin's Dutch colonial thingamajig. Which there is, and that's a beautiful set, and I'm actually going to use that in this park. It doesn't look Dutch in the sense that I go outside or go to Rotterdam or Amsterdam and find old buildings over there. It's almost the type of theme park Dutch, I would say, but it very much conforms to the Efteling. I guess that's just my idea. In general, it's a way of Dutch that I never really see too often. And I went into this building thinking that would actually be a good idea. And then I started doing that mock Tudor thing and it turned into more of an English building. but that actually looked good as well. That looks surprisingly good. I was really expecting that mock Tudor thing to not work whatsoever because, you know, we have the Main Street buildings around this, but it actually worked surprisingly well. I'm also quite surprised because those brick walls over there are from the Walmart set, so the Walmart is actually looking good for once. And in general, I kind of like this building, even though I still have no idea what exactly it wants to be. It looks much more English than the original Dutch that I went into it for, which goes to show that if you want to do a Dutch building, just leave out the Tudor stuff, just leave out all the wind beams and stuff like that, because that is never going to work unless you're building like some sort of special farm or something like that. But yeah, I want to get some kind of Dutch area, so I really need to start working on a custom machinery set, and I'll do that very shortly, because it's mostly in the small details that a building is Dutch, which is, other than its size, the types of chimneys that it uses, and types of cornerstones and cornices. So that is something to get into, but that goes for the rest of the themes as well, because they're all quite underused. But yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.